Speaking of second chances, so apparently Seth Rollins' attacker was neither contrite nor suitably chastened by his trip to the Hoosgow, to the big house, to the station down in New York, of all places, to go to jail. Did you see the video that he released? He was walking somewhere on the street. Maybe he was walking straight out of jail, but he did not seem contrite yet when he said that basically he was booked to do this by Vince McMahon and Goldberg.
Wait, he really said that?
I'm telling you, remember I said when we talked about it first thing, I said in the old days, it was regular people that hit the ring, regular guys that got caught up. They were already mad at the heel. They got caught up in whatever heat situation they saw, and alcohol was involved. As with this guy, I predicted there would be a mental component. Apparently, there is a mental component. Either that or the component is that there's not enough mental there. He was booked to do that by Vince McMahon and Goldberg, but they didn't tell Seth Rollins, a.k.a. Colby Lopez. See, this is real because he knows Colby Lopez's real name.
No.
And go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, for the record, I mean, it sounds like this person may have some issues, but considering Vince McMahon's current state, is it outrageous to think that maybe Vince McMahon got in his limousine and found some guy in Brooklyn and started fucking with him?
You mean, well, no, I thought you were going to say maybe he actually ass-dialed somebody and he thought it was one of the boys and he booked him to be there and do an angle with Seth. He didn't know the difference. But, and by the way, you
Goldberg.
The guy has issues. I think he's got subscriptions. But no, this is a personal issue also between the guy and Colby Lopez, because, Brian, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Seth Rollins, a.k.a. Colby Lopez, has stolen money from this guy on the internet. He has asked this guy if he could borrow money. And this guy apparently, he's talking to somebody on the internet that claims he's Seth Rollins.
Who we assume would make, I don't know, millions a year?
Millions and millions. But he's like all the preachers, as Carlin said, and God. He's all powerful, all knowing, all seeing, but he's bad with money. That's why they've always got to raise money for him. Apparently Seth Rollins makes millions and millions, but he needed to borrow a couple grand from this fucking putz in Brooklyn or wherever. And so the guy sends him the money. And then there's another twist to the story in that some way, apparently, Seth Rollins, unquote, on the internet paid the guy back with a check.
Wait, what?
That paid the guy back with a check or in some fashion that was no good. And then the guy's girlfriend, I guess, wrote a check and got popped for writing a bad check on the payback money from the fake Seth Rollins that wasn't any good. This just gets better and better. And then the guy in his video not only said Vince and Goldberg had booked him to be there and do it. They didn't tell fucking Colby Lopez because it's personal. But the guy also did it for Roman Reigns, Rikishi, The Rock, and everybody else in the family, because he's a member of the bloodline or he's supporting the bloodline. And
he wasn't Samoan, was he?
No. He looks like a black guy from Brooklyn. A little dumpy fat black guy from Brooklyn. But maybe he's the end of the bloodline. Yeah, the bloodline stops here. But so the guy, he's nuts. He's nuts. He's not only nuts, but easily, led, easily persuaded. I mean, he felt, what do the kids call it when you fake being somebody, you catfish somebody? Well, he got hooked by a catfish. He's gullible. He's got something going on mentally. And then he decides to just, I guess maybe he heard. Did he hear voices in his head, or did somebody else on the internet say they were Vince McMahon and Goldberg? Maybe somebody in this guy's neighborhood has caught on, because I could see in the old days, if there had been an internet, I could see the boys doing this to some fucking guy. Everybody's figured out in his neighborhood that he's an idiot and that he's nuts, and they've just been telling him shit and he's been buying it. I don't know. But yeah, so that's why that happened. And sad to say, he's not the only fucking mental case out there in the world. And they had one at how many years ago was it at the Hall of Fame when they jumped and the guy jumped and hit Bret Hart?
Oh, geez, 4 or 5 years? I was thinking a little bit more than that, maybe.
3, 4, whatever it was. So they had that one. You had the guy that they arrested for stalking outside the performance center in Florida, and he got shot by the police, right? There was some mix-up, dust up there. You had the guy that, and this is off premises, but you had the guy that was stalking Sonya Deville and tried to break into her apartment and either marry or kill her, depending on how that turned out.
He did break in, didn't he?
Yeah, that's why. Well, I'm saying he was in love with her, but he also took implements of serial killers. So one way or another, he was going to do something. And, they're not making fans mad who've had a little bit too much to drink and got caught up in the angle, anymore, because you could at least deal with that, because you could see if you were doing something hot, and if people were reacting, and you could sometimes sense, well, something may be coming, and you were always looking out. But now they don't get any type of physical, reaction from people except the people that are absolutely batshit fucking nuts. So they need to do something with their security. Past expecting that everybody's going to, be fighting over the T-shirt or whatever they throw out in the crowd. They need to, and I hesitate to say it, but maybe they need to start having cops walk the talent back and forth in the arena from the ring to the locker room and back like they used to. Maybe that would look more like a sporting event anyway. That would be refreshing to see that. When's the last time you saw that on a regular basis? The late 90s?
No, well, in wrestling, it's been probably before then, but you would still see it in boxing and stuff.
Well, that's what I mean. And in house shows, we still had cops walking us to the ring in house shows in the late 90s for the WWF, in the big arenas or whatever. So, maybe that holy mackerel, that might serve a double purpose. It might help, protect the talent, and also it might look more like a sporting event. I love it when you see all the old people tweet the 80s clips of, well, anywhere, but especially Crockett Promotions or whatever. And you see the platoon of police escorting us all to the ring. And now it's just this big, wide open area where everybody had a shot at you if they want to.
The 86 Mets documentary, which you really need to watch.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Who had the time on 45 minutes into the show or less he'd mention this? Okay.
Well, you really need to watch it. You'll understand me so much more once you watch this wonderful 4-part documentary. But when the Mets...
Who said I want to understand you at all?
Well, listen to this. When the Mets clinched the division in September of 86, as soon as the ball left Wally Backman, the second baseman's hand, the fans started swarming the field. So by the time Keith Hernandez caught it, thousands of people were on the field, and they destroyed the field. They ripped up the grass. They tore home plate out of the ground. They destroyed the field. When the Mets won the World Series before the third out, hundreds of policemen on horses came out from either side to prevent any fans, and a few got by, and then they got tackled and thrown into jail. But to prevent that scene, they reacted immediately, and they made sure it never happened again. And we've never seen that happen again in New York sports. And it used to happen for the Yankees. It happened for the Mets, where the fans run on the field. So you got to change something.
That would have been great if one of those cops on horseback a fan had broken through and started running, and the cop ran him down. It looked like fucking Dennis Weaver and McLeod on the fucking horse.
Well, how about this in terms of how times have changed? One of the greatest games ever, the most important games ever, Game 6 of the 1986 World Series. The beginning of the game, a guy parachutes into the stadium. Unbeknownst to anyone. No one even knows what plane he jumped out of. There are a whole bunch of stories. They tried to figure it out. Where did this guy come from? He's done interviews and stuff. I don't even know if he's still alive, but he's done interviews where he won't reveal who the pilot was or where he came out of. All of a sudden, in the middle of the game, he lands with a sign that says, "Go Mets," and they arrest him. And as they say in the documentary, and I remember it when it happened, I was a kid, that couldn't happen today. There's no way in the world that could happen today. And it was an amazing moment, but times change and you have to react to
How hard would it be to figure out which plane somebody jumped out of? How many planes were going over the stadium at that time?
Shea Stadium was in a direct flight path of LaGuardia Airport. LaGuardia was right there. I mean, right next to Shea, pretty much. So one of the things about Met games, and they changed it somewhat with Citi Field, was planes always flew overhead in the middle of the game, nonstop. So it wasn't outrageous to hear a plane and just not look up. You know, you just wouldn't even think about it.
And then suddenly the guy shows up.
And then suddenly, all of a sudden, in the middle of the game, he just lands on the field. It's one of the great moments. Again, you really need to watch this documentary.
And do you know who was at the game that time?
In 1986, Game 6?
Jim Hurd.
No, he wasn't.
Because that's where he got that expression. When Flair wanted to work with Bobby Eaton and gave him a title match on TV, and Hurd came in and said, "Where did Bobby Eaton come from? How did he get a title match? You drop him in out of a helicopter?" That's where he saw it.
Well, I guess that changes the story. It was a helicopter, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway, so basically this guy's a mental case, but he did it for Vince. He did it for Goldberg. He did it for the bloodline. He did it for the honor of his wife that bounced a check because he got stuck, catfished on the internet by Colby Lopez. I wonder, I'd like to get inside this guy's head and see his life. I would like to see how he sees his life inside his head.
Really?
I bet it's like a beautiful oil painting of him hanging out in the WWE locker room with The Rock and the Bloodline and Rikishi and all the other people. And he's probably sitting on Colby Lopez, propping his feet up on him. That's in this guy's head. That's probably what his life looks like, don't you think?
Maybe spending some of that Colby Lopez money?
Some of that sweet, sweet Colby Lopez money on a painting from Paint Your Life, folks. If you want to create your own reality, if you're not going to let pesky little thing like facts get in the way, then you can have an incredible world-class oil painting courtesy of the world-class artists at Paint Your Life. Folks, no matter how bizarre you'd like your life to be, the team of artists at Paint Your Life can take any photograph or combination of photographs and make them a reality, combine them into one fantastic oil painting. You can bring together generations in your family. You can bring together loved ones from across the world that have not been in the same place at the same time. Or you can remember cherished pets or favorite places or vacation spots, whatever. You can hang it up on your wall. You can think about these things, even if they don't exist in reality. It can be real or it can be an alternate reality with Paint Your Life. And if you go to paintyourlife.com, if you don't love the final painting, your money is refunded, guaranteed. And right now, as a limited time offer, you can get 20% off your painting and free shipping by texting the word DRIVE, D-R-I-V-E, to 64,000. That's DRIVE to 64,000. 64 with 3 zeros behind it. And Brian, once again, you can have anything at the touch of your hand. You can look at it on the wall. You can touch it. You can pet it. You can hug it and squeeze it and call it George, an original oil painting by a world-class artist done from any photo at an affordable price. What an incredible holiday gift.